All right. Take it away, Dion.
All right. Well, it is Tuesday, and that can only mean one thing. The Lions and the Bears that went up against Annie are no more. She has vanquished them.
Right.
Uh, and it also means that it is Tech Tuesday, which of course is now virtual. I have not seen you guys in a while. Let me just say, it is good to see you all. It is good to engage in the banter about who is better, Outcast or Andre 3000. And since this will be recorded, I will take a more diplomatic approach and just say they are one of the best hip hop duos ever. Now, that cannot be disputed. But again, thank you all for joining us for this Tech Tuesday. We have a wonderful, just very, very special person lined up today. So I am thrilled that she's taking time out for us, and really excited to see what she shares with us around this topic of investing in people and mentorship. We'll unpack all of that, but I just want to express my appreciation for Annie. And also, of course, for the organizations and the people that help us to put this on. So I think it's appropriate for us to give a quick shout out to Regions. They have been doing a lot, not just for Tech Birmingham, of course, but for our entire community. And then Link, hopefully you all were able to join one of the previous, not Tech Tuesday sessions, but the Navigating the New Normal session. Yes, and Christina, if you can see her, is pointing to the Link QR code that will take you to their platform. It is a fantastic tool. They've just been generous all around. So definitely want to make sure we recognize both of them. And you all are familiar with Tech Tuesday, but if maybe your first time seeing this is on our YouTube channel, this is an opportunity where we all come together as a tech community and touch on topics. Sometimes they will be specifically related to technology, and then sometimes we'll explore the intersection of that with, for instance, today about investing in people and mentorship. But it all ties in together, and it highlights the fact that we want to make sure we're promoting the community and that we're doing what we can to add value to you guys' life and all of your endeavors. And so with that said, thank you all again. I'll turn it over to Christina briefly. Shout out to Rebecca as well. You know, they cover a multitude of my sins, but I will turn it over to Christina just to kind of go over some of the housekeeping and details, and we'll kick this thing off.
Great, thank you. So just as, you know, every week, you know, we've enabled our chat feature. So please feel free to talk to one another, talk to us. You can ask questions. We will take those questions and relay them to Annie when it's appropriate. There's also a Q&A feature. And so if you have a question that you would like to ask, you can go ahead and go in there. I don't know if audience members are aware, but if there's a question that pops up and you have an answer or you have a suggestion, you can go ahead and answer as well. I think there's a place where audience members can type you know, their input there as well. So without further ado, I will let Annie take it away. I will be running the slides, so because she's got her injury, she can't do the slides. So so I will be taking care of that for her. And thank you.
Before you turn it over, I do want to let everybody know that Annie Allen was a former Tech Birmingham board member. So yes. Thank you, Annie, for taking the time and putting up with me as well during that process. I am most grateful. So,
you are most welcome. You are most welcome. So
right.
Are you ready, Christina?
Yes, I'll go ahead and sign off.
Okay. All right. So first of all, I just want to say hello to everyone and thank Christina and Dion and Rebecca for asking me to talk to you all today and talk to you all really about one of those subjects that Dion mentioned, is the integration between technology and just life in general. because I will say, first and foremost, that what I do from a professional standpoint really is just an extension of what I do in my personal life as well. And so we're going to talk about mentoring today. Before we go into mentoring, I just want to briefly introduce myself to those of you who may not know me. Again, I'm Annie Allen. I am what you would call at this point a serial entrepreneur, I guess, because I am trying very diligently to run 2 different business divisions at this point. iSeek Solutions is our management consulting business that we run for our commercial customers. And that business is run out of Birmingham, lovely Birmingham, Alabama. And then 2 years ago, I was tricked, I should say, by some colleagues into starting government contracting. And of course, we're doing that out of Huntsville, Alabama. And that's very familiar to me too, because I actually grew up in the Huntsville, Alabama area. So whenever I'm in Huntsville, it's truly like coming home. So I'm quite excited about that. So the topic that we're going to speak about again is mentoring. And the opening slide, as you can see, is really just the title slide that talks about why I mentor. And as Dion alluded to earlier, mentoring for me is just a way of giving back. I reached out to someone a couple of months ago prior to the whole stay-at-home, the pandemic thing, and because I was looking for a mentor in the government contracting space, because while I speak very fluent commercial language, I don't know much about government contracting. And what she said to me is, I can never think of myself as a mentor. And I can relate to her from that standpoint, because I don't think of myself as a mentor. Very rarely do we go through a very formal mentoring process. I've done that a few times in my life, but I really think of myself as someone that is very approachable, and I want to give back in any way that I can. And that is, sharing my knowledge from a professional standpoint, specifically from an entrepreneurial standpoint, as well as a number of other topics that we all encounter in this thing that we call life. So, Christina, if you'll go to the next slide, we'll move this right along. So the first thing I want to do is talk about, what is a mentor? So by definition, as this slide said, a mentor is an experienced and a trusted advisor. And I think that's what we all want to strive to be in any relationship that we have. And so, as I said earlier, in the mentoring or the giving back that I do, it is really based on my experience. And it's generally because someone sees me as a trusted advisor and they've reached out to me. But our definition that we're going to use today is mentoring is a process in which an experienced individual helps another person. And we're helping those people to develop their skills through a series of, time-limited, confidential, and one-on-one conversations. And the time limit is usually something that is based on the relationship. If it is, and we're going to talk about the different kinds of mentoring, and I think I'll just talk about the time limits at that point. But one thing that we always want is for our conversations to be confidential. If you are going to reach out to someone else on behalf of your mentor, then you need to get your mentee's permission to do that. It's just as Ben branch and others expressed in last week's Tech Tuesday meeting, if you're going to send someone's resume to someone else, then you need to let them know that. And the same thing is true when you are working in a mentor-mentee relationship. If you're going to share any information, obviously you want to be very upfront and you want to get their permission to do that. And as I mentioned earlier, my goal in mentoring is to share any knowledge that I have, give a person a place to start from. So they're not having to dig up information that I may already know or to help them sharpen their skills, but it is always to enhance an individual and whatever objective they have in mind. And as this slide says, mentors also draw benefits from the mentoring relationship. So I learn a lot from the people that I consider to be mentees. For example, someone may reach out to me and want to have a mentoring or coaching or just to gather some information. And normally it's in an area that may not have anything to do with my consulting business or the government contracting area. They are doing something completely different, but yet from an entrepreneurial standpoint, so that's an opportunity for me to learn more about their business and what they're doing. And as a person, the mentee usually has some traits or some skills. There's always some nuggets of information for me to gather. And I think that's very important. So next slide, Christina. So what is the role of a mentor? And I think I've covered that, but we'll go through it again. So you're sharing information with a mentee or a protege or a colleague about his or her career path, as well as providing guidance, motivation, emotional support, which is very important. And then, of course, being a role model. You may explore, careers, setting goals for them personally or for their company, vetting ideas, developing contacts and identifying resources. Networking is a big part of what we do in the entrepreneurial space. And so I am always reaching out to someone who may know someone that I want to get to know, and people do the same thing with me. And when you are mentoring someone, it is very important to give them a leg up by introducing them to people that you already know who are in a certain space that they are interested in getting in, or if you have made a recommendation about an area they need to explore, then give them some ideas on, who might be good contacts in that area. Next slide, Christina. So the 3 key roles. I think there are a lot of roles associated with mentoring or just being a trusted advisor and giving back, but there are 3 key roles. One is, being a consultant, which is not unlike what we do from a professional consulting standpoint. It is really giving the mentee information about how to handle any particular task or activity, goal, or objective that they are looking to achieve. Maybe you are helping them design or architect some piece of technology. I think a good example is I have a friend who is in the accounting business, which I know nothing about accounting. So you can really say she is as much of a mentor to me as I am to her. But as an accounting firm, she needs to have certain technology And several years ago, when she started looking at upgrading her technology, becoming more innovative, efficient, and effective, and creating more security for her clients and ways for her clients to provide her information through a secure portal. I really served as a consultant for her in providing some business and technology kind of guidance. You know, I did vetting on the kind of technology solutions that were available, looked through the website information that she had gathered, the kind of solution that she wanted to use for her company, looking to make sure that it met all the guidelines, that it had the right technology protocols and so forth. So that's an example of being a consultant. A counselor, likewise, and Christine, I don't know, do I explain all this on the next slide? I couldn't remember. It's been a little while. So if you go to the next slide. No, it doesn't. So I'm sorry, go back. A counselor is really someone who is just like if you were seeing a counselor in your personal life or a therapist. I mean, you're listening to what obstacles or what challenges does your mentee have, and oftentimes it's just listening. Sometimes they are looking for feedback, and sometimes they're looking for answers, but sometimes they are just looking for someone to listen. And so as a counselor, you have to be keen as to whether or not they're venting or if they are looking for guidance and feedback. And then lastly, one of the things that is really, really important if you are giving feedback or serving as a trusted advisor to someone, and that is to be a cheerleader. You want to be supportive of people when they are beginning some new endeavor. So, you know, if a person is just promoted into a position and they're feeling a little tentative about their ability to achieve the goal of that particular position, then you want to be a cheerleader. You want to support them and make sure that they know that they have good ideas, that they know that they have the knowledge and the background. A lot of people know from an educational standpoint that they have the skills, that they are well equipped, that they're qualified for the position, but they need to hear someone who they see as an entrusted advisor tell them that it's a good idea. And in the same way, we all have challenges. We have failures. We make mistakes. Cheerleaders are also people who will pick you up when you're down. They will let you know that this too shall pass. You're going to overcome this challenge. So those are three of the key roles that I think we all need to be very aware of if we are looking for someone to mentor. And if you are looking for a mentor or someone who is hesitant to take on the title of a mentor, but to serve as a trusted advisor for you, then this will help you define specifically what you want from that person. A lot of people have multiple mentors in their life. And so sometimes they already have someone who is serving as a consultant. Maybe they just need someone who is going to be their counselor, someone that they just want to speak to and vet their ideas or to vent whenever they have a challenging day. You should be able to do that with all the people that are mentoring for you, but if that's not the case, then you want to be specific about what expectations you have from the person who is functioning in the role as your mentor. Christina, are there questions we want to ask at this time, or do you want me to continue through the slides?
I apologize. So I can't, while I'm screen sharing through
Okay.
Google Slides, I can't see the questions. Rebecca,
Okay.
could you help us out there? Are there any questions so far from the audience?
Rebecca is muted.
Rebecca's muted, but I don't
Oh,
believe we have.
Rebecca's power just went out.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So Dion, no questions?
No questions at the moment, and shout
Okay.
out to Alabama Power.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right. Next slide. Okay. So what is a good mentor? We talked about that a little bit already. Just making sure that you are that trusted advisor, that someone is going to feel comfortable sharing information with you about their challenges, because the truth of the matter is um, all of us kind of look better on paper than we really are. We put our best foot forward. We don't allow a lot of people to see the areas that we may be failing in or that may be challenges for us. So as a mentor, you want to be someone that people can come to you and share the good, the bad, and the ugly, and know that they know that you're not going to judge them. You need to be willing to share your skills, your knowledge, which means sometimes you also have to share the good, the bad, and the ugly. I don't want people to make the same mistakes that I've made. So if there is an opportunity for me to guide someone around a pitfall, then I want to be sure to give them that information. Mentors by no means have all the answers, but when you are seasoned, you definitely have information to share. But you have to be someone who is willing to make the time, which is always a challenge, finding the time, and teach people, what you already know, which hopefully is something that is applicable to them. It's not an opportunity for us to tout all the wonderful things that we have done. We want to share things that will be beneficial to the person that we are mentoring, to our mentee. And another thing is we want to meet people where they are. As I said earlier, we all look better on paper, and that is great from a marketing standpoint. But a good relationship, you want to be able to look under the covers, and you want to look at the things that are not so pretty. And those are the things that you really want to work on and develop so that you can put them on paper and they start to look real good. And what is really, really important, I think, in any relationship is good mentors can remember what it was like just starting out, whether that was in a corporate career or an entrepreneurial pursuit. You are able to have empathy. You're feeling what that person felt when you encountered the same kind of situation when you started your career or when you started your company. So it's really important to remember that where you are today, you haven't always been there. Christina? I think that might be the end of our slides. So now is the time that we take questions.
Great. Well, that was awesome. Let's see. I do have a couple of questions that I prepared. Dion, do you have any questions? Let me pull those up really quick. Oops. Okay. So
There we go. So
there we
sorry.
go.
Oh,
You go
now
ahead.
you can go.
You go.
Taught me. I I'm gonna
All right. I
pork
think I'm
skins. I like
okay.
pork skins. Sorry for being late. Uh-oh. All right. Is my connection good?
You are good now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
perfect, perfect. But yeah, so I did want to toss a question first. Thank you, Annie, for kind of breaking that down because it is a topic we hear about often, but one that I think is still shrouded in some mystery, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks for kind of demystifying that. And one of the things that I've heard a lot that I want to offer up to you for your thoughts and feedback is how do people navigate mentoring relationships where somebody might be a different gender, different race, different, just how do you appreciate that and still have an authentic relationship
Right.
with one another?
Right. Right. So the first thing I will say is, I am not a formal coach of any kind, but to answer your question, from my perspective, regardless of whether it's a mentoring, mentee relationship or any kind of relationship, we have to do our research. So, none of us should go into an environment not having done some due diligence about who it is we're meeting with. And so whether that is kind of going through LinkedIn and understanding who this person is, or quite frankly, in that very first meeting, understanding who this person is. And so once you have some background, it is incumbent upon us, each of us, I think, to understand what is unique about that person, what are their beliefs. If they are a different gender or a different race or a different ethnic group, then it is our responsibility to understand, if some of the challenges they're having or if some of the discussions we're going to have, are they going to be cultural related? Are they going to be to the point where, if it's a female and it's a male dominant industry that this person is trying to break into? I think the bottom line is we have a responsibility to understand those barriers and then educate ourselves on them and then give appropriate feedback. That should in no way be a deterrent, in my opinion, unless the person is asking for information for which you are not qualified to give. I hope that answers your question.
So to follow up with that, is it important, if when you were seeking out a mentor, or you were entering into a mentorship relationship, how important is it to establish some boundaries beforehand, like before you get too far into the relationship?
I think that is very, very important, especially if it's a formal mentoring relationship. You want to establish those boundaries. I mean, you want to understand the expectations. What is this person expecting from you? You also want to understand how committed they are to the mentoring relationship, making time, following through on the action items. You also want to ensure that you both agree on when you're going to meet, how long you're going to meet, so expectations are clear. there, and nobody walks away thinking, well, he or she is not committed to this because, you know, they didn't do the homework or the action items, or we're not meeting often enough. So those things need to be set out clearly in the mentoring relationship. That's very, very important if it's a formal or even, you know, loosely formal mentoring relationship. If it's informal and you're, you know, you're providing ad hoc mentoring or counseling information, then obviously it's somewhat less formal, specifically related to time frame. But it is always important in any kind of relationship, in my opinion, to set clear expectations and boundaries.
I think that's important to establish that. And I mean, I think you know, there may be some people who would love to be a mentor, but like for instance, you know, one of the things that I've noticed in Birmingham is for women, you know, working in the tech sphere, there's very few women working, and it may be an area of expertise. It may be like in React Native or in one of the other very specific, you know, technology applications, and most of the experts are men. I would see that I would think that maybe you know, some clear boundaries would be helpful so that there's no misunderstandings, there's no, you know, the relationship remains professional always.
Right.
And so
Okay.
how do you go about having those conversations without it being like super awkward? Or do you just say, I know this is awkward, but you know, I'd really like for you to mentor me. What are your, you know, what are your ground rules for doing this? Or
Yeah. Well, that's so I'll answer it like this.
sure.
I think the ground rules in that type of relationship are no different than they are in any relationship between a male and a female, per se. So as a female, in your occupation, in my occupation, as an entrepreneur, I'm meeting with men all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some men who have made a decision that they never meet with, you know, women in closed door sessions, or they never meet with a woman with just them. There's always, you know, 3 people in the meeting and so forth. You know, I've generally seen men make those kinds of decisions. From my perspective, I can usually tell in the first encounter whether or not it's going to be a potential contentious kind of relationship, that everybody may not be on the same page. And so I really use that as a gauge. But I think the really important thing, Christina, is we define early on that a mentor is a trusted advisor.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that that person is a trusted advisor, a trusted person to you, should tell you from the very beginning if that's someone that you're going to be comfortable meeting with or not.
Yes.
So I don't advise people to go out on a limb and reach out to complete strangers. Again, we talked about doing your due diligence. If you are someone who desires to be mentored, then do your due diligence. You know, talk to people who, and if you're seeking out a man, and I will say that at some point in your career, if you are going to have a mentor or someone who is giving back, I mean, you definitely want to get a man's point of view as well as a woman's point of view. And so there should be a man that you are speaking to. And so use good instincts as you do with anything that, you know, where you're approaching a relationship with a man, and make sure that the man or the woman or whomever you're dealing with is someone that you can trust.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I mean, it's always so awkward because, again, a lot of here in Birmingham, a lot of the people who have the expertise just happen to be men.
Amen. Yeah.
And so, we're hoping that over time, that will change a little bit, but until then,
Right.
it's always so awkward and intimidating for a woman to seek out mentorship from those experts
So
without.
let me just say this. So I think that, people, even people in a position to be mentors, are intimidated often by the fact that they are considered a mentor. Does that mean that I've got it all right? Does that mean that I have all the answers? Is this person really going to be depending on me? Am I going to tell them or give them some advice that's going to derail them? So forth. And so I think we really need to demystify what is expected from a mentor. And I think more women would then be willing to be mentors or to be coaches or to be counselors if we didn't set that bar so high.
Let's see, we have somebody asking a follow-up to that. What can men do to make the situation less awkward? So I guess from a woman's perspective, like what do we feel that men can do to make the situation less awkward? I think for me, I'm such a Pollyanna. I never think that when I reach out to somebody that anyone thinks that it's anything but professional or friendly. I never assume that people think that when I'm reaching out to them, it's anything beyond that. And um, so for me, it's because I've grown up a little bit, I've realized that I'm a friendly person. Sometimes my friendliness has been misinterpreted. And so I guess for me, I would like to know, even from the men, what are some ways that as a woman we could reach out and ask for to enter into these professional type of relationships without making the wrong impression. It's such an awkward space, and I didn't mean for it to take this turn, but I think in today's climate,
Right.
these are questions that people would like addressed.
Yeah. So obviously, it may take a man to address the question, as you said. But for me, it's really not awkward for me, I guess, because I'm a lot older than you, and I grew up in a man's world. So 9.5 times out of 10, the colleague or the executive or the person that I'm going to be working with is going to be a man. And so it's a natural thing for me. And even today in my entrepreneurial role, most times the people that I'm reaching out to who are the real decision makers are men. And I approach it, and I won't say in the same way, because again, I think every relationship is customized to a certain extent. Your posture is different. My posture is different if I'm meeting with a man than if I'm meeting with a woman. But it's just second nature for me. And it is only if another person, which is not always a man, another person gives me an uncomfortable feeling. And often it's not, necessarily because it's another man, or it's not about, you can become uncomfortable for a number of different reasons. And
Sure.
I think if you give the right cue, then it'll go well.
Yes. Um, all right, so we have a question from Cliff Ritter. Annie, what steps do you take to make sure that you continue to stay on course and act as a mentor instead of turning into a manager-like figure, giving assignments, etc., in the pursuit of the mentee's goals?
Yeah, that's a good question, Cliff. 'Cause I've had that happen. I've had that happen. And so for me, it's kind of a multi-step process. I can easily see that, oh, I can get this done faster than this person can, or I can take care of this. So I have to be aware of my own instincts to just handle things for people. But I think that's one of the things you set up in your mentoring expectations. And a lot of people have forms that you go through and you fill out as to what are your goals. And you don't allow them to become all-inclusive or too broad from the beginning. You narrow down what 3 to 5 things you're going to cover in whatever amount of time you're going to be mentoring. And then you assign those tasks, or you agree upon these are the things that you are going to do. We have agreed you're going to get these things done before our next session, or you put together a plan or a timeline just like you would in any kind of project, and you ensure that they're the people who are following through on those things. And obviously, if it's someone in a corporate career or even an entrepreneur, they have jobs to do in addition to trying to figure out how to grow or to maneuver a certain challenge. And sometimes those things get in the way, and that's acceptable. They should be able to explain that to their mentor the same way they do to their manager or to their client, because everyone has to be accountable. I hope that answered your question.
Cliff, did that answer your question? Okay, Dion is back from Zoom jail is what he says, and it looks like Rebecca's power is back on.
Yay!
Let's see. So, all right. Is there any recommended like time frame for a mentorship relationship to last? I mean, obviously there's different levels of mentorship, but I mean, is there merit to having one that maybe has a time box in the relationship?
Yes, by all means. I think depending on what type of relationship it is, you definitely want to have time frames associated with that, because a lot of times mentors outlive their usefulness. If you went into the relationship to solve specific challenges, once those challenges are solved, or once the challenges are solved, it's definitely time to move on, even if you move to a different challenge. But you also want to set a time frame associated with solving that particular challenge or providing information so that that challenge can be solved. And so typically it's a year.
Okay.
But, sometimes people have lifelong mentors, and those are more those ad hoc relationships,
Sure,
where they're calling on their mentors at the time they run into a challenge and they need advice.
all right. And then what are things that a mentee can do to show appreciation for the time that their mentor has spent with them? So
So first and foremost, I understand. First and foremost, be respectful of your mentor's time, just as you would with your boss, your manager, your client. Recognize that this person is is giving of themselves, but it is above and beyond the other things that they have to do in their life. So don't get into the relationship if you're not going to follow through, either because you don't have the time or it's, just not that important to you at this time, not a high enough priority. Also, based on the relationship and the way you lay out your action plan, you should be accomplishing your task, and you and your mentor are going to celebrate the fact that you have accomplished those tasks. And that is as important and as exciting to your mentor as it is to you. So make sure you're providing that feedback and showing that progression and how you overcame those challenges.
That's great. All right, Donnie asks, Donnie Garvik, who has been your greatest mentor and what made them the greatest? I'm very curious about this one too.
Wow. My greatest mentor, I have two of them, a male and a female. The guy's name was Bob, and the lady's name was Cindy. And they were, Bob taught me a lot of things when I first started my career about just how to be a professional, really how to manage relationships with difficult people or with people who were not supportive of me and my ideas, or how I relate to other people who just decided they were going to be a butt about this, that, or the other. I mean, one thing he always said to me is, your mouth is saying that you agree or disagree, and you are saying it in a very professional way, but your eyes are saying something completely different. And that has always stayed with me. So he was a great mentor in my early career. Cindy was someone who was, she was tough. She was probably she was without a doubt the first female that I ever worked with that was a mover and a shaker. She got things done. She was well respected. There was definitely a part of her that I could not appreciate in the way that she got things done. But she taught me how to get things done in the corporate world, in a male-dominated world, and to not be seen as that woman.
I would love to hear from the audience, that same question. If anyone wants to throw that in the chat and share, who their favorite mentors have been and what made them so great. Because, I think all of us have been blessed so much by others who came before us. And so, I wouldn't be able to answer that question right off the bat either.
Mm-hmm.
I've had so many great mentors. I can't pick a favorite, just like I can't pick my favorite child. So
Yeah, I don't know that
yeah.
I definitely have had a lot of great people who have influenced my life and have influenced my career. But over the years, when I sit back and I think about, at what point in my life and in my career did I really feel like I made a pivot or I matured a great deal, those are the people that really clearly were the biggest influencers in my life. Not the only ones, because I have a great network. And that's one of the things I want to throw out real quickly. Whether you have formal mentorships or not, because I don't think that it's, that we all should. It's not a good fit for everybody. But we all need a good network. Just like we as women, have great girlfriends, we need a great network of people that we deal with, who are those trusted advisors to us, which means they're not always your friends, they're not always your colleagues. It's usually a small group of people that you work with. For me, now being an entrepreneur, which I always say, and I hear entrepreneurs say this too, that it's lonely being an entrepreneur. So I have a group of girlfriends who are girlfriends, but we started out because we were a network of business ladies, but now we've grown into just being best buddies. And we refer to each other as girl bosses. And we do everything from book clubs to networking things together. We vet ideas. As I said, I'm kind of considered the technology person in the group. We have an accountant in the group. We have, ladies who, a couple of other ladies who have other professions, but they're always together. We are always able to solve a problem or find someone in our network who knows how to solve a problem. And so I think everyone would benefit from having that kind of networking, coaching, advisory group.
That is very important. So thank you very much. And Dion's back, so it must be that time.
That time.
It is that time, but this has been time well spent. We have 2 minutes, and I will follow your instructions, Andy, to be respectful of people's time. And so within the short amount that we have left, I would love to do a quick, brief rapid fire to get to know you. What is your favorite snack?
Didn't you say you were eating some fried skins or something a minute ago? That is one of my favorite snacks. Yes, which my husband thinks is just gross, but it is one of my favorite snacks.
He'll come around.
How were the ones that Rebecca and I sent you? The chili lime ones.
They were absolutely. It's like the Mercedes-Benz of pork skins. I can't recall the brand, but you got to send them to Annie. Let her know. Amazing stuff. All right, so we got pork skins. What are you currently reading?
Currently, it's something related to. So I have multiple things I'm reading. Something related to the FAR, which is key to government contracting. It's the most boring thing I've ever read that I completely don't understand. I'm also reading a book that a colleague published on organizational change management, which is one of the latest areas that our commercial company has started working in. And then a lot of stuff from a very spiritual standpoint.
Love it. And the last one, I suppose, the craziest thing that you have ever eaten.
The craziest thing I've ever eaten. Wow, that's a hard one because I'm a very picky eater.
We're gonna work on that.
Yeah.
I invite you to try octopus. You would be surprised. Don't.
Yeah.
Don't give me that look.
I would be. It was really, really difficult for my husband to get me to try alligator.
But you liked it, right?
I did, but it was fried, so
everything fried is good.
Yeah.
Right. And of course, Ben Branch, octopi are smarter than. I'm going to let you all just read the comments on that. That's a good segue. Octopi are probably smarter than I am.
I'm offended, Ben.
Hey, Ben, awesome. I miss you.
Yeah,
should make Ben talk.
Awesome.
We'll pick on him and make him talk again.
I know. Well, good deal. Well, it is 101. So again, we'll be respectful of everybody's time. But Annie, thank you so much for your insights and spending time with us. Definitely sending you good wishes up there in Hunts, Vegas. Of course, hope to see you back here in Birmingham soon. And I guess we'll hang out for a little bit, but just formally we'll wrap things up. So
you.
to the attendees, thank you all so much for spending time with us. Let us know your thoughts. Reach out to us. Make sure you're a member of Tech Birmingham. Sign up on the newsletter, and also be sure to check our YouTube channel, where we post this as well as all of our other too many vowels strung together, all of our other webinars and video series, youtube.com/techbham, BHAM. So thanks again. We'll wrap up and then we'll hang out for a little bit later.
Oh, and don't forget, next week we have no webinars planned because we're on
Yes.
vacation. All of us are taking time off.
Wow.
Needed time
How nice
off.
is
Yes.
that?
Self-care. We need it more than ever, guys. So we'll leave you with that.
Thank you all for having me. And everyone, please give back. You always have something to give. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.